Hi, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good early morning, good late evening. We're around the world today. My name's Ken Lowney. I'm going to be your assistant and producer during today's event. We'll make a proper start in about 2 minutes. We're watching the people come into the room, and we know how many were registered, so we want to give everyone a chance to join us. It'll be a couple more minutes, and then I'll come back to you. So stand by. Thank you very much. And just another reminder, we'll be starting in about 1 minute. My name's Ken Lowney, and I look forward to meeting all of you in just a moment as we have people come into the room. Thank you. All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name's Ken Lowney, and I'll be your host as we go through today's event. I'll be introducing the presenters in just a moment. Thank you for joining us. Our session today is on the 5 essential functions of a regulatory management system, or RMS. Our goal today is to share with you the things we've learned about what are the single most important things when comparing, looking, selecting a regulatory management system. Let me go through a couple of housekeeping items with you before we start. So this event will be recorded. One thing that will always happen is lots of people will say, "Can I get the recording?" And you will get the recording. You don't have to ask. You'll also get a copy, a PDF copy of the actual presentation slides. That means you can relax, sit back. You don't need to take too many notes. You'll get everything you need afterwards. In a moment, I'll be introducing our presenters. We'll take questions throughout the event. Now, to submit questions, you'll see in the right-hand side of your screen a side panel. That side panel has an area that says questions with a down arrow caret. If you open it up, you can ask questions. Post them there. I'll be curating those questions and passing them along to Marie-Louise and Jawad. So that's how we'll do questions and anytime throughout. Also, I want you to know at the end of the event, automatically, the system will post a survey to you. Please do take a minute and complete it. One of the most important things we can learn is what you would like to hear in our next session, because this is a series of webinars that we want to present to you on various topics on life sciences. I see our audience is mostly assembled. We have people from literally big parts of the world, all parts of the world, from the Middle East, from Brazil, from the United States, from Europe. So it's exciting to have you all together. And what I'd like to do now is introduce you to our presenters. Marie-Louise and Jawad, if you'd open up your cameras for just a moment, don't be shy. Introducing Jawad. Jawad has lots of information to offer, and it's from a business perspective in particular on the software industry, and especially as it pertains to life sciences. As you'll see in his background, he's been in the life sciences industry, the pharma industry, etc. For, I won't say how long, Jawad, because you're so young, but we'll leave it at that. And in lots of positions that are business related, M&A roles, etc. So big picture man. Marie-Louise is a very, very special presenter for us because of her deep expertise in regulatory management systems. Again, she says she's been doing this for 20 years, but if you're looking at her picture, you know it's not possible, so she's lying. But it's wonderful to have her here. She's our primary presenter. And as I said, reminders, you will get presentations, you will get a recording. Do ask questions in the panel. And with all of that, we'll make a start. I'll ask Jawad and Marie-Louise to turn off their camera, switch to the first slide, and I'll turn it over to Jawad for a moment. Okay, thank you, everybody.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session. Today, we launch our first webinar as part of our Life Sciences webinar series, starting with the regulatory management system, which we will refer to as RMS throughout the session. As you know, regulatory compliance is quite complex and time-consuming for organizations in life sciences. And really, that's why today we're here to talk about how an RMS can help organizations and companies build and maintain regulatory compliance effectively and efficiently.
Hello, everyone. I'm Marie-Louise. So Ken introduced me already in my role at Cygenic, and I'm co-hosting today the webinar with Jawad. We both actually come from pharma industry, and we've been the users on the other end, and we have used all these digital systems as a solution to sustain compliance and optimize processes and time for more than 20 years.
Great. So I think it's a good place to start by really discussing why regulatory compliance is so important in life sciences.
Yeah, absolutely, Jawad. I would say that, as many of you already know, regulatory compliance is an essential part of running a successful business in pharma and in healthcare. It ensures that your organization is operating in accordance with the laws and the regulation that apply to your industry, and this is protecting both your company, your patients, and your customers. As we know, healthcare organizations are subject to a wide range of regulations for drug, for medical device, for supplements. So any non-compliance with these regulations can result in a significant safety concern for the patient, in penalties for the organizations, as well as a big damage for an organization reputation.
That's right, Mary Lou, and I think that's why it's really important to have a system, a solution in place to manage the regulatory requirements in a way that ensures really things do not slip through the cracks, and that's why and where an RMS system comes
in. Absolutely. So before, Jawad, before we go into a deep dive into our regulatory management system and all the essential functions about it, I would ask Ken maybe to play a poll for our audience to have some questions and some assessment of the answers. Ken?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. So here's a poll we want to ask right at the outset. And it may seem like an obvious one. What is the primary purpose of a regulatory management system? But we do want to get your sense. Notice there's only one choice for primary. The choices are help manage regulatory requirements, act as a document repository for storing regulatory information, to track compliance, keep track of what's done, what's not done, what you need to do, and to provide alerts and reminders for regulatory deadlines. So we'd love your answers here. Take a moment and make your choices. And I'm watching as the poll proceeds, and we'll go from there. So again, what's the primary purpose of a regulatory management system? And collecting responses. So Barb, I think I've got what I need, and it's an interesting set of answers. Oops, sorry, I almost cut it off too soon. You can go ahead and switch the screen and I will tell you the answers. So you notice the bar graphs here on the screen. The first choice, manage regulatory requirements and responsibilities, is 40%. The second, acting as a repository, is in the green, 20%. And tracking compliance is also 40%. So we have a good distribution. What we didn't get any votes for is providing alerts and reminders. So I'm going to turn it back to Marie-Louise. Is that what you expected, Marie-Louise, or is that different than what you would have guessed would be coming in?
Yes, I would say it would have been more on the side of being a central repository as well as tracking deadlines. And I will explain a little bit more about that. So a quick refresher on those of you from our audience and colleagues who knows about the regulatory management system. It is, in a nutshell, a valuable tool for healthcare organization because it's a software that helps organization manage their regulatory requirements and responsibilities. But how do they do that? How does such a software function actually? The whole concept of a regulatory management system is to serve as a central repository for all the information that you have in your organization. In other terms, we have seen in the industry from all the previous years when I was also in the pharma industry in different companies, I have seen so many tools that were used for managing a regulatory documents, regulatory application, regulatory database, etc. And most of the time, these were really scattered in different places, sometimes on Excel sheets, sometimes on some SharePoint when SharePoint was introduced in the late years. Sometimes just on the desktop of each regulatory manager. Having a centralized database that is a one-stop shop that has everything you need for your regulatory information is really key. And this is what we always look for whenever we look into a regulatory management system. So that is one of the key elements for this RMS. The reason for that is, again, compliance, and it will always be compliance. And you will notice during the whole presentation that we will always come back to compliance in everything that we do, because that's the aim of such softwares whenever we integrate them into our organization. Having a central repository for all the information makes it easy to access for all the users. It maintains the data within one place. It is faster for access, and it is also more compliant for all the users of the organization. Another key feature for the regulatory management system includes tracking compliance with regulation. And here, one very essential way, and all the regulatory colleagues in the audience would of course agree with that, is to have a submission planner and tracker that is a tool built in within that system. Again, another key for compliance, because with that comes all the respect of commitments to the health agencies, the deadlines for inquiries, the deadlines for submission, for clock stops, etc. And finally, the reporting tool, extremely important because we always need to know what to do with all the data that we are putting in a software. So a regulatory management system would serve into extracting reports from all the data that you are putting in. And these reports would serve for many purposes. And we will go more in details in the other slides.
Believe it or not, I already have a question, if I can share that with you, Marie-Louise, but I'm going to precede it with a comment. So your point about a central repository versus these other functions is really interesting, and it prompted this question. And I think it's because people sometimes absolutely think of such systems as only a repository. It's a place for content that will ultimately be submitted. And then other people have a view of a process management system. Dates when things are due, tracking when things are due, tracking when things are overdue, keeping track of actual correspondence with regulatory authorities. So you see the two halves, and I see your answer is yes, it should be both. the question that I had from the audience, and I think it's reflecting an earlier generation of these systems, is that the perspective in the question is that it's a repository, and does it and should it include an actual publishing capability for the submission? So I'll restate the question. Marie-Louise, in such systems, is a publishing capability to produce things like in the US, the ECTD, are those common, or are those usually a separate application?
Yes. This is a very valid question. Thank you, Ken, and thank you for the audience for participating in this. It is of course very important, and both the RMS and the publishing tool are always associated. Now, the association can either be built in within an RMS or it can be separate. From our experience and what we have seen as users in the industry, we would recommend not to have the publishing tool built in the RMS, because especially when you are going into a lot of emerging markets, I would say, so maybe it's more centralized in the US or in Europe with one tool that is for publishing. However, whenever you go into emerging markets where many health agencies are trying to upgrade their systems into more digital submissions, sometimes you face different versions of an electronic submission. And this makes it a bit complex to have one tool that is already built in your RMS, and then that tool would not validate on the softwares or the versions that are being used by the different health agencies in different countries. So our recommendation would be, in that case, to have that RMS capable of preparing a dossier in a CTD format that can be downloaded and extracted in a click of a button into the same format. So the CTD format would be extracted and migrate into another publishing tool that can be also available, and that publishing tool will then adapt to each health agency depending on the requirement. So this is usually how we would recommend. Thank you, Ken.
Sorry to interrupt. That was very clear, and I can see the fact that I sit in the United States come through, and that we are used to that one format for submission. Well, two really, for the FDA and for the EU. But in other markets where you have many authorities with different requirements, maybe even different formats, it makes perfect sense for publishing to be a separate function so it can be more agile. So thank you very much, and I'll consider that question answered.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Ken. Allow me to add as well another key benefit for the RMS that we're not seeing here. And when I talk about this being a compliance tool or a central database, it's a central database not only for regulatory users, and this is very important. We need really to always keep in mind that whenever we are thinking of an RMS, we have to think of it as a compliance tool for the whole organization. So this is not only something that regulatory department would budget and would purchase for themselves. And it's not a closed database. You can provide read access to everyone in the organization, from quality assurance, supply chain, medical department, marketing, sales, pharmacovigilance, even if you have a pharmacovigilance third-party service provider. So all these functions, all these departments, your colleagues from your organization can also jump in on this database, and it becomes really the database of reference in your organization. Why? And you will see in a moment as we go in the presentation and later on in the demo, you will understand how we store, how we have selected, or how usually in RMS information is selected, the fields are selected, the documents are selected in a way that are immediately answering the compliance questions of all these parties. So quality can come in and they can check the information for the finished product specification, for the drug substance specification. They can, medical and pharmacovigilance can jump in for the artwork, supply chain can jump in as well immediately on the same, all on the same database, and check what is the approved artwork, what is the approved supplier, what is the API supplier, etc. So many information that is available serve for one purpose, which is providing the right compliant information about what are the specifications that are submitted and which ones are approved. And this by itself creates an amazing collaboration between everyone in the organization. Even for the marketing and sales, they can go in, they can just go on their search function, select a country, and then they have an immediate report of all the activities that are still open, that are closed, the approvals, renewals, pricing, deficiency letters, everything that is still ongoing on the product in that specific country or in a cluster of countries. So we will talk more about the reports as well, but this is just to highlight that being a compliant database, this RMS really creates an amazing collaboration tool for all the organization. And that is one of the most beautiful features of such softwares, that when you are investing in one of those, you are actually getting a tool that serves the whole organization and not only one department. Now, if I go in a deep dive into the main features of what I would love to call an effective RMS, always look when you are thinking about an RMS, always look for this. Make sure that your RMS contains a tool that is a built-in tool that provides a submission planner and tracker. And this is really key. This is the first thing that you will always look for. It's very important that you have that tool, because we have been used many times to have separate trackers on an Excel sheet on our desktops, and it becomes very individual. It's not always well maintained. And even if it is maintained between, let's say, the manager and his supervisor, it's not visible to the rest of the organization unless they are actually calling you. You are sending that by an email, etc. And most of the time, there is a lot of debate about it. Having this submission planner and tracker centralized as a built-in tool within the RMS is excellent, because everyone from the users who have different type of permissions can go in and they can check that, and they can know where the variation went, the submission, when it is expected, when it is planned, when the dispatch is planned, etc. Product registration management, of course, is by default any new submission. So the moment we create a record in the system, a record being the product that we would like to track, immediately all information about product registration goes in. So this goes without saying, of course. Product data management, the archive, the dossier, and again, this takes us again to the concept of having a one-stop shop and a centralized directory of all the data. So we don't have to have a database with all the dates and information and MA numbers and so on, and then have another software or another SharePoint whereby we are storing our archive. An ideal RMS would allow you to have a platform where you are able to put all of those within the same place. So your product data, which is all your archive, all your applications, your dossiers, communication with health agencies, everything can go, regulations, etc. Everything can go into that same platform. Product lifecycle management. For all regulatory people, they know that a product doesn't stop at the moment of its registration. It's actually where it starts, right? The moment you have your marketing authorization, you are automatically exposed to a life cycle, a full life of this product, as long as it is on the market, and sometimes even when it is discontinued, because you need, from a compliance perspective, to maintain that data within your systems for further audits or for preserving of history, depending on your SOP of preserving documents in your company. Product lifecycle management includes all the change controls that are issued usually by your quality assurance, or even maybe issued by you or by the medical department, depending on the type of the change, the type of the variation that you are issuing, as well as the renewals, the pricing in some cases in emerging countries, the deficiency letters. So all of that goes into the product lifecycle management. And again, this is a very essential feature that you need to look at whenever you're thinking about an effective RMS. And now I would go to this. It was very interesting in the poll to see that nobody mentioned notifications and alerts as being an expectation of an RMS. And actually, it's quite the opposite. You need to have a system that whenever you have a regulatory database, you need to have a system that would allow you to have notifications and alerts about deadlines. The whole idea of an RMS, whenever you go digital, and how you can differentiate that from your Excel sheet or from your paper-based tracking, is the fact that it is an interactive tool. So it's a tool that's going to speak to you. It's a tool that is going to remind you whenever you have a deadline that is approaching, whenever you have a dispatch of dossier, and by dispatch, I mean preparing your dossier and sending it to your representative in your export country, or what we call in emerging countries and Middle East, our distributor. So having these notification and alerts in a form that is that you set depending on your SOP whenever you would like to be notified, and then you receive that notification in your email or on the system, etc. So in different ways. This is key for compliance because often we are so taken by the workload, right? And we know that from all our experiences, from all the regulatory colleagues as well. Everyone went through a huge workload and huge deliverables, right? And then having that system of alert keeps us really ahead of any deadline or any action that we need to take. Dashboards are also a very nice tool to have. It's a bit about there are very nice charts that you can use in your presentation to your management that you can extract also from your RMS, and it shows you a bit how the dynamic of your workload is doing, how the dynamics of your open activities are, open submissions, open changes, etc. Also, as well as, of course, the approvals. And now that I have explained all this, I would really like to focus on extracting reports. I always believe from what I have seen in the industry. So I've been doing this for 20 years, right? Especially in regulatory affairs and mainly in regulatory affairs. And it was always a headache whenever some RMS systems would not allow me to extract reports of all the information that was stored there. So we had to extract reports manually or to build reports from Excel and so on. This is really not recommended whenever you encounter an RMS that is not giving you that feature. Always look into how an RMS can make use of the data, how you can make use of that data that you're creating, because it does take a lot of commitment, right, and a lot of discipline to be committed to the product information, to put in the updates every time they occur, to make sure that you are proofreading your information and it is always compliant, because at the end it is serving the whole organization, right? So it would be amazing to have reports that can read into all these fields that you can extract and you can work with. These reports can vary into different usages. They can be just reports as your monthly report, tracking all your submissions or your approvals, your open changes, open renewals, pricing, deficiency letters. It can be specific reports about just a specific change and where that change has triggered a regulatory submission in some countries, in all the SKUs, etc. So you can really direct your reports and play with the report in any way you want. We will talk more about this, but let me walk you through now into what really matters in an RMS. We talked, we scheduled this webinar in a way to highlight 5 essential features of an RMS. And it was really challenging while we were preparing this to really think what would really matter in an RMS. I mean, we have talked about all these features, all of them do matter, in fact. However, I wanted to highlight, based on what we have seen in the industry and being a user, and also when we were setting up Cygenic as well, thinking of what is our vision for the RMS, what is it exactly that we want to do. So first, the centralized platform, I have spoke about this, but what I want to say is the most important thing for a regulatory professional is to have an organized system that is really user-friendly, that is able to capture all the cycle phases of the product, that has an integrated archive, and that allows all communication to be tracked and stored and worked on. So having all that in front of you in one platform, on one screen even, I would say, would be really what matters whenever you look into an RMS. The second point, which we found to be extremely interesting when we were looking into the RMS, and when we were thinking about the RMS, we said it really needs to cater to all businesses of all sizes. It shouldn't be just for big pharma. It shouldn't be just for startups. It shouldn't be for this. It really should be a tool that is so flexible that it can really cater for all the SKUs of all the companies with all their diversities, their different product types, their different divisions, their subgroups, their different manufacturing sites all over the world. So it has to be a tool that can really adapt to any country, to any regulation, to any organization, to any SOP, and everyone can feel comfortable around it. It needs to be intuitive. It needs to be easy to use in a way that you and your team are really enjoying doing this. It becomes your platform. It becomes your working space, you know? And this is how you need to look into an RMS from our experience and from what we have seen, and also from how we thought about our own RMS product. The whole idea was making it friendly but fun also to work on a daily basis. But in order for you to have that discipline to stay on that platform, you need to have tools that are built in there. And these tools would be workspace tools, tracking tools, commenting tools, to-do lists. So everything, whenever you can have these tools that you usually use either on pencil and paper or on a separate Excel or individually, you can have all that stored within your RMS. And this is where the more integrated and complete the business solution is, the better the RMS would fit into your organization and also in your daily practice, and it will make it very easy for you and fun way to maintain your records.
In that area, I had another question, Marie-Louise. Very briefly, your top part of your second point said to meet the needs of all sectors, and the question is, so can the same system meet the needs of a pharma, a biotech, or even a medical device company? Or is that what you mean when you see meet the needs of all sectors?
Yes, absolutely, Ken. And thank you for the audience for the question. This is a very valid question. We can absolutely, absolutely an RMS can do that, because the logic of the RMS is the same whenever you have a product that is regulated, such as medical device or biotech or generic or originator, etc., or pharma, meaning pharma. The logic is the same. So the fields are common. They can change in the terminology, more or less. However, the concept is the same. The flow of the RMS is going to be the same in terms of the tracking, in terms of the submissions, the life cycle management, the archiving, the exporting of reports, etc. So this can absolutely adapt to any type of division that you have in your businesses, as well as to any size of the business.
Okay, thank you. Before I let you go, I just want to do a time check. You're at, we've used 34 minutes so far, Mary.
Okay, perfect. Thanks a lot, Ken. I will continue now on the third essential feature of the RMS, and really what you need to keep in mind whenever you think about this: time management. Very important on two levels. Time management in terms of accessing data. So the fact that you have everything centralized already on the same platform on one page where you open that and you have all the information about your general information about your product, but then your drug substance, your drug product, your archive, your deficiency letters, your variations, renewals, pricing. So when you have everything there and your archive all stored in front of you, this is by default an excellent time management tool because it saves you so much time. Then, I mean, instead of going and checking different SharePoints, different softwares, old software, new software, old storage archiving tool that you had in the company, old systems, etc. So the moment you have an RMS that is fully integrated, you have that possibility of saving so much time and being so efficient in the way you are approaching any project that you have for your product. Another way of looking at time management saving in that case, in the RMS, is the fact that you are able to set up your dispatch planning versus not only dispatch, but dispatch, planned dispatch date, what we say in regulatory, planned submission date, planned approval date, right? And you can measure that versus the actual dates. And the fact that you have that possibility to store these two allows you, whenever you extract reports, to compare between what you have planned and what you have actually accomplished. And this is an excellent tool that I always encourage regulatory departments to use, especially on the head of departments, whenever you're discussing with your team and you see that there is a gap between your planned dates or their planned dates for a submission and their actual dates. And of course, in case there is a delay, then this is an excellent way of using that report and using that observation, which is also visible to the head of department and everyone in the organization. It is the fact that it would trigger that discussion about why this happened. Let's see what was the issue, what was the root cause, and how can we remediate for that, right? So it's very important that a planner is not only about just storing the MA and storing the date of the MA when it occurs, but it's also a tool that allows us to think together about how is it that we're going through the workload and going through the planning and the submission, etc. So again, on the time management, the last point I would highlight is the automated alerts, which we mentioned already. And this by itself plays a very, very important role in not missing any deadline. And we have seen in the industries how many times when deadlines were missed, it can go up to having shortages of the drug product in the market for the patient. It can really, I always like to talk about regulatory having another dimension that goes beyond the RMS and beyond submissions and beyond paper and dossiers and etc. It really goes to the commercial part. It goes to the fact that any regulatory action that we do has a commercial impact. Either if when we secure a submission, when we secure an approval on time, a submission and an approval on time, when we secure a variation on time, versus when these are delayed. But most importantly, when these are missed, right? And this is where it gets more critical for the patient. And we should never forget that our end point of any regulatory action is at the end is market access and is to make sure that that product is reaching the right patient at the right time. So I would always emphasize on the fact that there is always a commercial dimension and a commercial impact of any regulatory action that we do. And from there, the importance of time management and having the right tools to help us manage that time. So alerts and notifications are really a very high goal for me as a regulatory person. Ken, I think it's time for our second poll. Would you like to do that? Yeah.
It is. So thank you very much. We're going to do the second poll, and it's on sensitive information and protecting it. So the direct question is, how does an RMS protect sensitive regulatory information? We're asking you to again choose one. One is protecting from unauthorized access, that you can't get to the information at all unless you have a reason to. Using encryption so that it can't be decoded. User authentication and access controls to protect the data. So the system is the first one. The second one is access to data. And the last is it does not have, an RMS does not have any security controls. So once again, we're going to ask people to go ahead and vote. I see votes coming in. 11% of you have voted. 17%. Keep voting, please. And there you go. Yeah, okay, that's good. I think we've got the majority of people have voted, and everyone voted for choice number 3, that it's about user authentication and access controls to protect data. Marie-Louise, I would have thought it was all 3 of the first ones. So what do you think?
No, I fully agree. I fully agree, Ken. Quite interesting, right? To have a 100% answer on a poll. Actually, I fully agree with the audience, and that is the reason why we will now talk about number 4 in the 5 essential features of an RMS, which is the adherence to the FDA Directive 21 CFR Part 11. Let me walk you a bit through this. So for the majority of our audience who are probably coming from regulatory, you would love to know that as we have our regulations and directives, the EU directives, the FDA, that are referencing or being referenced more or less in all the rest of the emerging markets for the drug regulation and medical device regulation and so on, there is also directives at the FDA and at EUDRALEX that are related to computerized systems. And this is in direct relation, not only to general computerized system, but specifically in the pharma industry. And this is very important for us regulatory people to know, and everyone in the pharma industry, or let's say healthcare industry, right? So FDA CFR 21 Part 11, you can take note of that, and you will have also the presentation later on, so that you can do your research if you'd like to read more about it. But I will give you a summary of those. So both the FDA CFR 21, the Part 11, and the EUDRALEX Volume 4, Annex 11, there are a set of regulations that are issued by the FDA and the EU, of course. And they establish the criteria under which electronic records and electronic signatures are considered to be trustworthy, reliable, and equivalent to paper records. So there are a set of guidelines that any software that speaks to pharma information or healthcare information and databases needs to follow. And this is very important whenever you are looking at an RMS. Always ask that question to your solution provider. Do you adhere to these directives? Are you aware of these directives? Because these directives, they allow for a main purpose, they allow ensuring integrity, ensuring security of electronic records, electronic signature, and they provide a legal framework for the use of electronic records and electronic signatures. This also allows, so it sets a full process of how you create, you maintain, and you use electronic records. So anything that is related for pharma, medical device, biologics is all within these directives. Some key requirements of these Annex 11 or Part 11 is on the security measures, how these signatures and records should be protected from unauthorized access or tampering, and also for the record retention, how it should be maintained in a format that is accurate, readable, and readily accessible, and how electronic signatures need to be unique to the individual using them, etc., and the validation of all these systems. So these are extremely important, and always please have a look at those as regulatory people whenever you are requested to assess an RMS. Another guideline that is very interesting that we don't know about as regulatory usually, or we don't work with. It's called the ISPE GAMP5. It's the International Society for Pharmaceutical Engineering, so ISPE, right? And it provides guidance on the development, operation, and maintenance of computerized systems in the pharmaceutical industry specifically. So GAMP5 is based on the principles of good automated manufacturing practice. So what we know good manufacturing practice, GMP. So this is good automated manufacturing practice, which is more of a risk-based approach to the design, operation, and maintenance of automated systems in the pharmaceutical industry. This GAMP5 is very important. I really, I strongly encourage you, as you are professionals in the industry, to Google this and have a good read about it. Quite interesting to see how even the computerized systems that we use in our pharma organizations and healthcare organizations are also very highly regulated and are required to be compliant with regulations. There is a huge emphasis on risk assessment, system validation, system documentation, system maintenance, and system change control. So it's these type of automated practices are very important, and all RMS and any software that you would invest in for your organization in the pharma industry needs to follow that. MHRA speaks exactly the same as well as FDA and Eutralex, as well as PICS, so I will not go into this, but this is just to highlight for you that these guidelines are extremely important. The last point that I want to emphasize on would be to analyze your data in more than one dimension. And this is crucial for an RMS. And this is what makes an RMS really interesting, because when you are putting all the effort to put all this data in, right, you should be able as well to analyze your data. And you need to be able to extract any information that you want in any format that you want, and you work with that report. That report can tell you, can track and manage your obligations, so your deadlines, as we spoke earlier. It can show you also the potential compliance gaps that you have, the delays that are occurring all the time, right? The deficiency letters, the type of deficiency letters that you're always receiving. And this in regulatory is very important whenever you're doing your product review or your portfolio review, and you see and you notice that there are deficiency letters that are recurrent, coming all on the same topic. So this type of report from the RMS would allow you to actually have all that reported in one sheet, with all the information in, with all the deadlines, and also how this was treated and how this was tackled and solved, right? You can also track the KPIs for your team, because each action in the RMS is associated with one user, so with one regulatory manager or coordinator or associate. So you can track the KPIs of your team, and this is an amazing tool for HR use whenever you're discussing their remuneration, end of year, etc. This also allows you to manage the workload, because if you have one regulatory manager that appears in the report to have 5 submissions in a quarter and another one that has only 1, you can then maybe have that flexibility to redistribute the task in a way that is fair for the department and that is more efficient for the department. So, and again, many more uses of these reports. That's why I say it's more than one dimension, because you can use also that report to demonstrate to regulators how you are compliant, and whenever they see something digitalized in your company, they are always immediately trusting that this is a very solid tool that you have and that you are taking the compliance topic extremely seriously, versus, for example, having an audit where you need to go look for paper. So why should you start looking for an RMS? We have spoken about this, but I would go very quickly on the Pharma 4.0 just for the sake of time, to just highlight to you that currently there is this concept of Pharma 4.0. It's really about where pharma is today as versus the industry with regards to digital transformation. The industry today is at 3.0, whereby some parts of the industry in the manufacturing automation or laboratory or operation is on digital already. The rest is still on paper. So there is this shift that is happening. But today pharma is pharma 4.0. So all pharma is actually shifting. And this is an invitation for all of us, especially in emerging markets, to start thinking about the necessity of shifting from paper into digital, because this is the continuity, right? So continuity versus competition, but also towards the future. So cloud or paper-based, I think we have spoken about this. And whenever we have papers misplaced, whenever we have deadlines that we noted on paper or in an Excel, that doesn't serve much unless we open that document and really look for it. And if we forget, then we have forgotten the deadline, etc. So all of these things that we have encountered versus a paper-based process can be absolutely solved whenever you have a cloud-based system. And I would say even more, why cloud-based versus installed software on individual laptops. Cloud-based deploys way more rapidly. It's much better preserved. It's easily accessed. I mean, you can play with this RMS from your mobile. You can access it from your mobile. You can access it from a tablet. You can access from your office. So whenever you are on the go, you have immediate access to everything you want about your product, including all your documents. So just before we go into our demo, one final information about the RMS. Now that I have walked you through everything you need to know about an RMS, I would say just a quick tip about what would be the best way for you to start that process of investing into an RMS in your organization. So first, define the RMS that you need based on all that we have spoke about. Define the requirements that you need. What is it exactly that you're looking for? Look at your current processes and compare, and identify the gaps, and look for an RMS that would be a solution provider to these problems that you would like to tackle. What I would encourage you to do, and this is also something that at SciGenic we really feel very strongly about, is request a free but a structured trial of your RMS, your RMS. And by this I mean, try it out. Whenever you are going into such an interesting solution for your everyday work, you need to feel also comfortable using that tool. So what I would really encourage you to do whenever you're approaching a solution provider is request a free trial for a couple of weeks of access to the RMS. However, let that be structured so that you have a clear script and you know exactly what you are testing, what you are trying. Otherwise, it might be really, a bit confusing, because since you're not yet used to it. So always ask for that structured trial, and always try to find your provider as someone or a company who's being able to provide that, to work with you as a partner rather than just as a seller. And at the end, once all these are done and you have your final agreement on your RMS, you agree on the implementation roadmap, whereby you can discuss how you can migrate your information into the system. Solution providers should be able to migrate your data so that you don't start from zero, but you start with already your SKUs built in within your data. So the moment you go live in your organization, you have already, for all the SKUs that are already available on the market, under preparation, obsolete, etc. So everything is there. Okay. Now, Ken, I think it's a good time to switch to our video and have a quick 10 minutes demo about SciGenic RMS. I'm very happy to share with you our own.
I'm so sorry. That's perfect, Mary Lou. I apologize for interrupting you. Yeah, I think we're all set up for that. And as you were just about to say, our goal here is just to highlight some of these features and how we address them at SciGenic. So I'll let Mary Lou take it over from there.
Yes. So Ken, I just want to make sure that you are able to see the video playing. You will just give me that okay that you can see the screen of the Cygenic RMS. Ken, can you see the Cygenic RMS playing?
I don't have it yet.
Yes.
Now I do.
I can see it. Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect.
So I see your login.
Excellent. So then for my audience, very happy to introduce you to Cygenic RMS. Actually, quite a friendly system that we have. It has all the features. It has everything that I told you about in what matters of in an RMS and what is an effective RMS. So I will show you how it goes. So you simply log in on a cloud-based system. You are in the system. And the first thing you can do is you go to your user management, you select your user roles, you define the roles because you have the possibility to control the permissions of the system access for roles and as well as for departments, as you can see here. So you just tick the permissions that you need and you create the roles. And after that, you create your users, the users with their emails, departments, and group. And here by group, we mean the group assigned for the specific roles that you have defined. A responsible role would be then a role that is a regulatory manager. A very nice feature that we have in this RMS, before I continue further, is the languages that you have seen here. Let me show you again, because this one went a bit fast. So I will show you that again. So as you can see here, we do have different languages: English, French, Portuguese, and Brazilian. And for our Brazilian audience, I switched to Brazilian language here to show you Anvisa. We do have an excellent tool that is built in our RMS where you can add your process number and it will take you to your Anvisa link, to your Anvisa process where you have all your applications and you can track those and you can extract those into the RMS and have them built in. So back to English now, let's walk into the record. So what is a record in our RMS, in Cygenic RMS? It's a combination of a trade name, an active ingredient, dosage form, strength, pack size, and country. So once you have that combination, or what we also call an SKU in our regulatory terminology, you can create a record. So this is how a record is created. I will show you something that is already created, but just to show you how we go into drop-down lists where you have all your users who are the regulatory managers. You have different classifications. So it's quite an easy tool to use where everything is built in and can be also edited. So here you can have your active ingredients that are related specifically to your organization and you can choose from those. And you can fill information as many information as you want. So the more you put in, the more you will have in the database, of course, but you have that option. The fields that we have selected here are fields that are considered main fields for any regulatory tracking. For example, here the MA number. What is a great tool is that I can go to my archive, I can attach my marketing authorization, and I have it automatically attached here on my general data. In other terms, I don't need to go to the archive every time or to go search for the MA whenever I need it. I just click on this and I have it. Another way also of storing things would be all the approved PSUR, pill, and here, as you can see in the example, is the artwork. So I can attach also my approved pill and artwork, and this is excellent for the medical and pharmacovigilance and also the release team. I can track my price, attach the pricing document to the pricing approval, if it is reimbursed or not. And this is the planner tool that I told you about. It is built in the page. You put your planned dispatch date, planned submission date. You have it versus actual. So whenever you do the actual dispatch or submission, you can also put that. You can put the MA approval and the MA expiry. And you have that notification system that would take you, that would send a reminder to your inbox. The comment section that you see here will allow you to leave a comment for your colleagues at a proper time and at a proper date. Drug substance, again, you have here a list of all your suppliers for all your active ingredients that are part of your composition, and it's very easy to set up. You just select from your drop-down list, which is predefined according to your organization. You go on the supplier and automatically you have the address as well preserved. You can store your DMF version, CEP, and track the GMP of your active ingredient supplier and get even notified on the expiry of that. And you see all this displaying into a beautiful table where you have all that in front of you. So the moment you need that information, either you are a reader or a manager, you can see it. The same goes for the drug product. Whenever you have, so as a tool to put in all the manufacturing flow chart. And here you can distinguish between the roles of each manufacturer. You select from the all possible roles, bulk manufacturer, primary packager, secondary packager, releaser, testing site, etc. And you can track the site submission and GMP of your product. We have selected also a specific set of documents that are important, like the batch size, the CPP, composition and specification for drug product, that you can also store and attach here, as well as the comment tool. So once you have created all this information as the basic information for your product, what you can do is you go into the product, so it is now created as a record, and this allows you to start the life cycle management. And here you see we have the sections of change control, inquiry, and files. In change control, you get a list, a display, a table that shows you all the changes happening on your product. And it's a very easy tool to use. You create your change control based on what you obtained from quality assurance or whoever initiated the change. You select your variation, but you can also assess your variation. So is it post-approval, pre-approval, is it just a notification, etc. And then you follow up the status of your change and what this change has triggered as a regulatory action. What's great about it is that you can use the same platform. Again, we are not moving, right? As you have seen, we are still on the same screen, the same platform. Here I have a workspace where I can put the change description and what are the requirements for from each module that I need to be able to submit that, to complete that application and submit. So we see here also, again, a planner and a tracker tool that is built in on each change, where you can have, in a very easy way, access to calendars and track that and even get notified about these dates. Most important for change is the implementation date, and this information is key for quality people who can then just access this and know when regulatory said that this change can be implemented. In the same way, within the same scope, we go to inquiry, which is another term for deficiency letters. And here you can have a display as a table of all the inquiries, all deficiency letters that are open on your product, or all the ones that have been submitted and closed. Again, within the same approach, you put in your reference, you can attach the inquiry or deficiency letter that you have received. You put in the information type, your assessment for it, and accordingly, you can write down what are the requirements per module that you need. You track it, of course, for the issue date, the deadline, and if you need an extension. The workspace tool is amazing for regulatory. I love it really, because it allows me to immediately take action for any deficiency letter that happened. I immediately analyze it in terms of deadlines, but also in terms of requirement, and I can request my documents. The final section that I want to show you here is the files section, which is the archive. Very easy to use, very friendly. You just add a folder, let's say, you call it in your submission, and in that you want to store documents. Look how easy it is to just store documents. You go into your new submission folder, and then from your desktop, you select upload files, of course, and from your desktop, you just drag and drop documents that you have already on your desktop, and you just press select. It immediately processes the document. It's very speedy upload, and you have the document right into the folder that you need. You can also download all, and it will download exactly in the same structure of folder that you have uploaded. One final tool, which I spoke so much about because I have a strong feeling about it, is this exporting of reports, and this is where it goes. So we have an amazing tool in RMS that is built in, is this export tool. So the moment you go on search and you select your features that you want to export, you can go to this record export details. You just mix and match, right? Any field that you want. So we do have some pre-defined reports. We can define new reports for you as well, depending on what the type of report that you need in your organization. You can extract renewal plans for your business plan for next year. You can extract submission plans, regulatory plans for your business plan, and make use of everything else that we talked about the export report. And as you see here, your report is immediately delivered to your inbox, and you can have it in an Excel format and you work on it. And in one last or quick feature, I would like to show you the activity log. So this is when we spoke about security and security of data, and adherence to directives. So the activity log here shows you who went into the system at what time, who was the user, from which department, on which record he worked, and what did he change. And we have at the end a dashboard on which also charts can be extracted and so on. And it actually shows per user all the records. So the moment you go in, you log in the morning, you immediately have your records as a manager in front of you, and you can work on that. So this is in a nutshell our Cygenic RMS. And I would welcome your questions if you have any, or otherwise I would really be happy to have you experience that with us and sign up for a free demo. Visit our website. You are on www.cygenic.com. Go ahead or just reach out to us and ask for your demo. Thank you.
Okay. What I'd like to do is close that screen, bring back your video for a second, and we'll do this wrap up. I did have more questions, but we don't have time to take them today. We also got a thank you from Hatem. Thank you. But we do have questions, but we will go ahead and add those in some of the follow-on documents. So I'll pose those to Marie-Louise, and we'll document those out and write them out for you and include them in the follow-up materials. As I said, you're going to get a recorded version or access to a recorded version, and you'll also get a complete set of the slides as well. So look forward to that, and do take a moment after this to fill in the evaluation if you have a moment. In the meantime, I'll say thank you to both presenters. Jawad, thank you very, very much. Marie-Louise, you're amazing. That was awesome, and I learned so much, so thank you. And we'll let you know for our audience when the next one is, coming up soon in January. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Mary. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day.